have a selection to read. This selection is regarding giving birth to a disabled child. And even though in the meantime my attitudes have changed considerably, in viewing disability not as a horrible tragedy, initially it feels a lot different than on further down the road when you get to meet the child and things turn out not to be as bad as you initially think they will, but it's always a shock, initially when this happens. So this is entitled The Soap Opera, and this is about my experience in having Spencer Thomas Good. When Spencer was born, the doctors spoke in muted tones. The relatives didn't know what to say. With their helium balloons sagging around their shoulders, they painted smiles on their faces while in the hospital room, then turned and walked down the hallway of the maternity ward, their heels clicking on the linoleum, trailing tears. My Spencer was not born a healthy baby, and the doctors in white coats wanted answers. I didn't want my child to be labeled and resented their Wheel of Fortune diagnoses. Soto syndrome, Marfan syndrome, Fragile X. They scribbled notes in their charts, slapped them shut, and left to make their rounds. I stayed behind in the room, eyes downcast. Of course I was in denial. I expected a normal child. A thin, wizened baby with a gastronasal tube for this place. On a windy but sunny day in late February, my sister and I descended the gray concrete steps in the parking garage of KU Med Center, carefully balancing tiny sleeping Spencer in his car seat. The wind blew against the glass, and as we scurried across the street to the main building, white paper scraps flew wildly around the curbs. We had an appointment with Dr. Neil Shimke, Division Director of Endocrinology, Metabolism, and Genetics. Dr. Shimke, a tall man with thinning gray hair, leaned against the examining table in his white coat. So, were there any complications during the pregnancy, he asked, arms folded across his chest. No, none at all. This was totally unsuspected. Any problems or complications with the delivery? He looked at me through his glasses. I pushed for 3 hours and then I had to have a C-section. He tapped the pencil against the chart. Were you exposed to any toxic substances? I cleaned the oven but held my breath every time I sprayed the fumes, I said. He asked all the routine questions I had heard in other medical offices, trying to crack the code of why this wasted little rake lay before us in his blue knitted jacket and gray car seat instead of a fat, squawking thing. Really, there was nothing. My sister, still wearing her parka with a fake fur wrap, pulled the requested family pictures out of the manila envelope to discover if whatever Spencer had was stealthily slipped into the gene pool. The three of us gathered around the black and white images arranged on the metallic table. Did our grandfather have a long face and large skull? Did our father have an unusually large forehead? Once beloved pictures now looked sinister. All were suspect in the relentless investigation of this perfect crime. Spencer slept with his eyelids sealed, oblivious to all the apprehensions surrounding him. He's not always this quiet. From about 2 to 4 in the morning, I'm pacing the floor with him, I said. They're perverse that way, Dr. Shimke chuckled. I did not share all the secrets of what transpired late at night, when I awoke to his muffled cries and pulled my heavy body, still disabled by the cesarean section room, down the stairs to his crib. In night's blackness, I could not see the bruised face, but could feel his skull against my forearm and smell the fetid aroma of urine evaporating from his damp sleeper. Spencer cried, but would not feed. When I positioned him to accept my nipple, he squirmed but would not latch on. He then cried weakly while I walked through dark rooms with the moon shining in from the crescent window, my bare feet treading on cool wooden floors. Finally, still hungry, Spencer would get quiet, and I would lay him down on the crisp, light sheet and pull the coverlet trimmed with lace over his thin body. Within days, my breast, initially tender and bursting with milk, dried up without a trace. Dr. Shimke, grasping the edges of the yellow tape measure between his thumb and forefinger, measured the distance between Spencer's 2 pupils. The black notches formed a track Virginia's nose. Dr. Shimpy looked up at the nurse. The moment had come. Without speaking, she carried the baby out of the room, and Dr. Shimpy followed, so that he could do more measurements and come up with a verdict. Soto syndrome. I looked up to see a doctor who was decisive, but carefully handled the fragility and power of the truth. For me, having any diagnosis was shattering. I had prayed that this doctor would assure me that my infant was normal. What does that mean? I blurted out. Dr. Shimpy's lips started moving, and his eyes lit up as one conversing. I heard maybe every 8th or 9th word, sometimes single words, sometimes a group of them. Big hands, big feet, maybe clumsy, large head, advanced bone age, possibility of cognitive developmental delay. Does that mean he's going to be mentally retarded? I shrieked. Dr. Shimpy's head and shoulders were outlined in stark relief against the white wall. I had no more defenses. Outside, a brown, shriveled leaf lay down the alley. It's too early to know with certainty, Dr. Shimpy answered. There would be many subsequent late nights, the household asleep, when I sat in the garret overlooking thick wood, reading, praying, and journaling. Let him be normal. Let Spencer be a typically developing child, please, God. But underneath the supplications was an aching chill. I ran from the truth. But whenever I looked over my shoulder, it was there, like an elfin ogre with gleaming teeth, peering out from the pages of the fairy tale. Mothers had universally thought that this couldn't be my baby. No, not my baby. With his large, broad forehead, slightly slanted eyes, and small, pointed chin, Spencer physically resembled E.T., the space alien character from the movie. He was an extraterrestrial who had come from some far planet to dwell on Earth. A few days later, I sat in the television room with Spencer's hard skull pressing my forearm against the wooden arm of the chair. The voices of soap opera characters made the only sound in the house. A manila envelope arrived from Cleveland Med Center with a letter that stated, after examining him, we feel there is a possibility that he has a condition called Soto syndrome. Clinical features involve a large head, large hands and feet, advanced bone age, and a variety of other problems, some of which are described on the enclosed information. I didn't want to read this. The letter continued. Occasionally, children with this condition have developmental delay. However, this is not a definite feature. Enclosed with the letter were pictures of babies diagnosed with Soto syndrome. Naked except for diapers, rectangular black boxes blocked out their eyes. I read the captions under the pictures. This baby, with a winning smile, had an IQ of 60. That one propped up on weak legs, 70. How can they know? They're just babies, I yelled at the television screen. Spencer slept, and I studied his still features for symptoms, such as premature eruption of teeth. With my forefinger, I shoved aside his lip to examine the smooth pink gums, finding a little white blotch on the gum ridge, a tooth. My hopes drained swiftly out of me and spilled all over the floor. Spencer had Soto syndrome. This clinched it. I didn't have the energy to rock, to make the hinges in this stiff chair squeak. I heard the front door swing open. Steve, my husband, wearing his tie and jacket, took one look at me and Spencer and froze. He stood before the picture window in its afternoon light. I lifted the manila envelope from the telephone stand and dropped it. They sent some information about Soto syndrome. I think from reading this that Spencer has it. Steve stared at me through the metal rims of his glasses. What does this mean? Is that baby retarded? Is one of us going to have to quit our jobs to stay home with him all of the time, he demanded. I sat there. I couldn't get up. During most of the early afternoons when Spencer was taking his nap, I couldn't get much of anything done. When Spencer woke up, I rocked him and watched soap operas. One day, one of the actresses was giving birth. With her coiffed hair only slightly mussed and the slits of her eyes delicately lined under iridescent dark lids, she tossed slightly and emitted noises from a lipstick mouth that formed a circle. Of course, it was a normal, healthy baby. I hated the actress simulating birth, absolutely despised her. I not only raged at this woman, but also the screenwriters for never even daring to imagine an alternative outcome.